Joaquin here, back for the next ICG webinar, and today we are going to be talking about the problems that you guys in UK estate agency are really suffering from. And today we're talking about how estate agents can get those lovely sales through to exchange. How can we get them through this pipeline? What I'd like us to start with is Richard Megson from ASAP, who is basically the country's #1 guy for outsourced sales chasing. So Richard, I wouldn't want to be you at the moment, mate. Talk to me.
Why not? I love it. Absolutely love it. Just in terms of the market overall, I mean, obviously COVID and the legacy of and what we're continually going through has had an impact. So the market in terms of solicitors, agents, mortgage lending is not working as it normally would. We're certainly starting to see a return to some sort of normality in terms of turnaround time. So, you know, the 120, 130 days from sale agreed to exchange, certainly with us, are starting to come down. But in terms of dealing with your pipelines, I would, without obviously saying, put focus on sales progression. If you're starting a transaction, make sure you're getting your clients legally ready to move as soon as possible. Make sure that if you're recommending solicitors, that they have capacity and they're working normally, and continue to communicate with your clients from start to finish. Because in this market, and we see it, if a transaction is delayed, sometimes vendors and buyers just give up and walk away. So my advice would be over communicate and just make sure that you're talking to your clients, whether you do it internally or whether you outsource it, with a real focus on sales progression and speaking to people.
Okay, let's go to Charlotte Campbell, who is from the Able Agent, great trainer. Talk to us, Charlotte.
I'm just picking up from what Richard was saying there, and I think it's making sure your teams know what the process is and where the pinch points are and where the problems might be. It's things as simple as, if you've registered your buyer as Bob Smith on your CRM system, should they be Robert Smith when you send out the memorandum of sale? Something as simple as that can delay the process right from the beginning. How good are your listers at advising the seller about getting documentation ready? How good are your negotiators at saying to the client, you've got to get your ID back quick, you've got to sign your terms of business quick? Because every week or two that somebody puts that off can have a huge impact on the next stage. And it's things like title. Are your teams aware of warning that title might be an issue? Do they understand what title means? I've just sold a property myself and it was delayed by 6 weeks because of a title error by a lender. So are we legally preparing our vendors and getting to check these things as early as possible? Because that will shave those important weeks off the process, as Richard says, that will then keep the process going quickly. So make sure your teams know what to do, I suppose, is the key.
Stephen Brown from Agency Mentors, talk to me.
Get sale ready and get buyer ready. Very simple. And every solicitor, I'll be asking this one simple question: do you have the capability of dealing with your workload? Okay, because at the moment that will be my concern. How many solicitors are, whether they're all back from furlough, whether they can actually deal with it. So, you know, in a way, we're tied with, we can't control what the lenders are doing, okay, but we can control what we do, educating our vendors and educating our buyers by making sure in every market appraisal we go on, we're educating them about every single thing they need to get ready in a pack straight away, so that once the sale is agreed, that pack is going out on day one, and that's saving time. You know, buyer-wise, I'll be trying to get reservation agreements, okay? So, you know, at Green and Company many years ago, we had something called a goodwill charter, an anti-gazumping tool, where we asked both parties to put in a bond. And if a vendor pulled out because they got more money, that £1,000 would go to the buyer. If the buyer pulled out, apart from bad survey, bad search, bad legal title, then that money will go to the vendor. There needs to be some form of commitment as well, and hopefully that's going to speed the process up. I know the government are talking about it, but long and short, just ask that question to your solicitor, prepare your vendors, prepare your buyers, educate them from when they register. Okay? Here's what you need to do as a buyer, and keep on educating them. And Chris, you're a massive advocate on videos. Okay, start doing these videos to your community, to first-time buyers, to second home owners, and let people know exactly what's going on. Do a video. I read an article this week that there was over 50% of the public don't understand the conveyancing process. Well, get a conveyancer and do a video with them, and so the public, the customers can understand the process a lot better.
Good stuff. Great.
So I agree with all of that. Educating clients, managing expectations at an early stage is really important. One of the big pinch points at the moment is two: legal capacity, which has already been addressed, and things like searches. So we advocate that searches are ordered sooner rather than later. But ultimately, there's a lot of pressure on councils, and there are big delays around searches, which are going to delay transactions.
Okay. Can I go to Jamie next and then Bradley afterwards?
Thanks. Yeah, great points raised there. Very true around searches, which are having an impact across the industry. But I think for me, it's got to be right to talk a little bit about auction. I'm not going to be sales pitchy, but you know, continuing to fill the pipeline up in the same way when the process is creaking due to the backlog all coming through at once. Perhaps being honest with vendors at the start of the process, saying private treaty is actually quite cumbersome at the moment, more so than it has perhaps been previously. Things are going to take a little bit longer, and the inherent risk of a fall through will increase. We have got another option where completion takes less than 56 days and the buyer's secured with money up front and a reservation agreement. Is it worth exploring that now, or perhaps we readdress that at a customer review point 10, 6, 8 weeks down the line? So perhaps not just doing the same thing again and again and again.
Especially if this stamp duty thing is going to be, again, it could be a cliff edge. Let's go to Bradley.
There are technology tricks that are very simple to implement that could massively help bring that process up front, where you're engaging with all the various parties and shortening the line. So, for example, just picking up what Charlotte said, the identity verification, there are technologies available that allow you to get that correct. It avoids the data entry errors, it avoids those delays. And picking up Stephen's point, about the information packs that help people prepare the journey. Again, there are triggers that you can use within your workflow, within your CRM, that will automatically send out those packs. It's worth investigating what these simple, cheap, cost-effective solutions can give you, because it can make a big difference.
Good stuff. Anyone else got any final things to say before we wrap this up? Charlotte from the Able Agent.
Yeah, just check your team's knowledge, because I know from personal experience they're not always the most confident at sales progression, and it's one area of the business that businesses don't tend to focus on in terms of a skill set. So just check how comfortable your staff are, check that they know the most important stages of chasing the sale, and then if they don't, find us a solution to that, whether that's shadowing somebody who knows what they're doing or getting training in. But it's really important that we don't just assume that they know what they're doing, because they may not.
Excellent. Any more thoughts before we close this one up? Well, Stephen?
Yeah, look, pipelines are incredibly constipated at the moment. Agents have their biggest pipelines I think they've ever had in their history. So it's a question of, you've got to help with that solicitor. You've got to understand what they want as well. And solicitors may have 4 or 5 different parties in every one case. And if those 4 or 5 different parties are calling them every day, that solicitor, and they've got a workload of 40, 50, 60, 70, 80 cases, they're not going to have time to speak to you. So, you need to know exactly, on Charlotte's point, you need to know exactly what you're asking, what you can do to help, because actually we need to help in this as agents, to make sure that it's not just left to the solicitor to the buyer. That's our job. And actually, as agents, that's where we actually earn our fee. I think it's easy to get an offer. The challenging part is to get it through to exchange.
You're right, that's what they pay for. It's very easy to shout at listeners, when in reality, we're here to help them. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. Those 10 minutes have just flown by. So wave goodbye to everyone, and we'll see you, UK Estate Agency, on the next ICG webinar. We'll be helping you out with your issues and problems.